Waco ISD is home to 6 of the top student historians in the nation. Hello again, everybody. My name is Dale Caffey with another in a series of interviews highlighting the products that made it all the way from the Atlas Academy here in the Waco Independent School District to National History Day in College Park, Maryland. I am with a person who put in a junior individual documentary. This is Gloria Conatser. And Gloria, congratulations. Gloria's product on Ida B. Wells finished 3rd in the nation. Okay, I got to ask you, once you're in the top 3, that's incredible. How do you feel?
I'm elated, really. To make it to the finals was a huge thing. And I mean, to make 3rd is amazing.
Talk to me about Ida B. Wells. First of all, for the people at home, explain a little bit about who she is.
Ida B. Wells was an anti-lynching activist as well as a women's rights activist, but mainly she focused on anti-lynching because at the time she was active all the way from like 1882 to all the way to her death in 1930, in the 1930s. And I mean, that lynching was a huge part of Southern life.
Right.
Actually, 3 of her friends, close friends of hers, who were owners of a grocery business, were lynched because they were more successful than the white grocers a few blocks away. So, I mean, she focused on anti-lynching throughout her life, and she was a fearless leader. So.
Okay, every year there is a topic. So talk about this year's topic and how you ended up choosing your topic of Ida B. Wells.
This year's theme was leadership and legacy. So you had to choose a person or a group of people who showed leadership in their lifetime and whose legacy we can still see today. So I chose Ida B. Wells because although we don't learn about her in school, and I had never heard of her, her leadership from the time we can still see today. So.
Very good. I see you're wearing your bronze medal there. Congratulations once again. And you actually have 2 pins, one on either side, because you are a repeat performer at National History Day. You went back in 2013 as a 6th grader and returned there this year as an 8th grader. How did that feel to be able to go back?
I mean, it was an amazing feeling, especially since in 6th grade, although I didn't make it to finals, I did this year, and that was already winning for me, but then I made 3rd place, so that was pretty great.
Very good. Talk about what you choose to do, and that is to make a video documentary. Well,
it's a documentary like you would see on PBS or the History Channel, actually, and you make a script, you choose pictures that go with what you're saying, you record yourself, and you add music according to the mood of what you're saying.
Talk about the research that goes into this thing, and it all begins, I think, in the fall, right?
Yes. At the very beginning of the school year, we start working on this project, deciding what we're going to do. The research is a big part of it. It's actually 60% of the judges' grading. Okay. This year I had like 25 pages of sources, and you have to have, it was like 125 sources. So you have to have a lot of primary. That's important. So this year, since my topic was a journalist, her crusade was through journalism, right. I had a lot of newspapers, primary newspapers, and she also wrote books, so I had a lot of books. Okay. It just depends on your topic.
Anybody locally, or did you have to find people all over the United States to try to be primary sources?
Well, the internet is a great source, and also the Baylor Library. They have a lot of primary sources for her. They had a complete set of her works, and they had individual works too, so they also had her autobiography.
What is it about doing a documentary that you enjoy better than, let's say, writing a historical paper or making a display or doing a performance?
Well, a documentary, I mean, this is my 3rd year doing it. Right. And ever since, I don't know how old I was, but when my brother was a 6th grader, he's a senior in college now, when he was a 6th grader, he started doing documentaries too. And I've been seeing him doing that, and now he's actually a film and digital media major. So I'm really familiar with it, and it's really easy for me. I mean,
yeah, you get it all together. We're going to break away from the interview and take a look at your Ida B. Wells documentary by Gloria Conatser.
Southern tree strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
In the winter of 1955, a woman bravely refused to give up her bus seat to a white man in an event that we all know as the turning point of the civil rights movement. Nearly 75 years earlier, on a train bound to Illinois, 22-year-old Ida B. Wells refused to give up her first-class train seat to move to the Jim Crow car. When one man couldn't move her, 3 more came, and while she was eventually removed, she left behind a bitten conductor and an all-white train car applauding. Unbeknownst to her, this would be the beginning of a life of leadership, the birth of an outspoken voice for civil rights, which fought lynching and segregation and supported women's rights. This is the story of a woman's leadership in a fight for justice, which left behind a legacy of standing social change, that spurred the co-creation of various movements and organizations which brought forth these changes. A few of these organizations include the NAACP, the Alpha Suffrage Club, and the very first anti-lynching organization in the world, the London Anti-Lynching Committee. Wells was born in 1862 in Holly Springs, Mississippi. 6 months later, the Emancipation Proclamation was released, bringing a contagious atmosphere of new hope for her people. While her childhood was at times bleak, Wells was raised in this environment of hope and strength. Wells lost her parents and an infant sibling to the yellow fever outbreak of 1878, when she was just 16. While she was told she could fend for herself, she was forced to watch as members of the community decided on the fate of her siblings. She calmly announced that she was going to take care of her siblings herself, with the assistance of her grandmother and a friend of the family. Pretending to be 18, she presented and passed the teaching exam and became a teacher at just 16. She continued to care for her family and attend college through her teens and early 20s. Nevertheless, what happened on the train to Memphis changed her. She had never experienced such humiliation, and she had not been raised to let such injustice go unnoticed. She faced the train company in court and earned a $500 settlement, only to have it later overturned by the Supreme Court. This further provoked her want for change.
What inspired Wells to take action? On the first part, she was raised in a home where action was something that was expected and modeled by her family. Her parents were very strong advocates for themselves and for their community and for their families. Wells's father, Jim Wells, for example, was willing to go against his employer's wishes and vote for the candidates that he wanted to vote for as opposed to the ones that his employer wanted him to vote for. Refused to go against his conscience politically. When Ida Wells was a young woman in her formative years, she had these strong examples growing up of what it meant to take responsibility.
With little money, few resources, and a seemingly small position in society, Wells' hope for an equal America didn't seem like a realistic idea, but she used an unexpected weapon to fight for this hope: her words. Many times under the pseudonym Iola, Wells recounted the many horrors which she witnessed firsthand in the South. She began writing editorials for the New York Age, the Indianapolis Freeman, and the Chicago Conservator. Then, in 1889, she acquired a third-part interest in Free Speech and Headlight. Later she published pamphlets like Southern Horrors and A Red Record. One fateful night, 3 of Wells' good friends, who were the owners of a successful business, were captured, dragged through the city, and lynched by the white, less successful owners of a rivaling grocery store. Wells responded in anger and dismay, publishing an infuriated editorial. While she was out of town, a white mob stormed the office of this free speech, destroying the press and leaving a threatening note. Realizing the danger for all blacks in Memphis, in a different newspaper she urged blacks to make a decision, to leave their homes or unite against white dominance. They did both. The African American community put so much trust in her word that they left Memphis by the thousands, and those who stayed boycotted white businesses.
You know, this is that black migration to the Middle West, the Kansas and Oklahoma migration. Go to Kansas, go to Oklahoma. And many blacks left. And I think that's another reason that the power structure was angry with her, because she understood the economic and political strategy that they were using to intimidate blacks. And what she was saying is, you don't have to stay here and be intimidated, leave.
Wells was also an outspoken feminist. Her position on women was progressive, and in 1813 she founded the Alpha Suffrage Club. Meanwhile, the news about a growing practice of mob violence spread abroad and caught the attention of social reformers Catherine Impey and Isabel Mayo. Impey, who had met Ida B. Wells while attending a meeting in Philadelphia, proposed to Mayo that they invite Wells to travel to England in order to promote the anti-lynching campaign there. Wells' pamphlet, Southern Horrors, had already been published in London in 1892 under the name U.S. Atrocities, and she immediately recognized the potential such a trip had for furthering her cause. So, on April 5, 1893, Wells left for Europe. She began her lecture tour in England and Scotland, returning again in March of 1894. During her second tour of 5 months, she spoke on more than 100 occasions, receiving considerable press coverage in English papers. On her last evening in England, friends and supporters gathered at Tavistock Place to form an English anti-lynching committee. Among those who joined were the Duke of Argyll, Lady Stevenson, and almost 20 members of Parliament. When she continued documenting crimes and influencing the many who read her papers, it was no surprise that she made many enemies along the way. But to the surprise of some, those against her were not only white supremacists, but some African Americans who were high in society and feared losing their place above others. The writings of Ida B. Wells on the subject of lynching and racial injustice are a well-documented and researched body of work. They mix journalism and social analysis. Her first works, Southern Horrors and A Red Record, show a detailed account of statistics and social dynamics behind lynchings that have endured for more than 100 years. Her words were so powerful that even 105 years later, they move a nation into a position of apology.
The United States Senate today takes up a rare resolution expressing remorse. The Senate is apologizing not for something it did, but for something it failed to do. It never approved a law against lynching. To say that the resolution comes late in the day is an understatement. When the anti-lynching activist Ida B. Wells wrote that the silence and seeming condonation grow more marked as the years go by, it was in January of 1900.
The apology really struck a nerve, I think, across the country. It certainly did in Waco, Texas. When that resolution happened at a national level, our local CRRC came to the council, met to, as a city council, as a mayor and a city council, and the city staff, that we would do everything going forward to make certain nothing so horrific as that event would ever happen in the city of Waco.
As an unexpected leader of a war with words, the legacy of Ida B. Wells is one whose impact we can hardly measure today. She was a radical voice in a time that rejected the radical, a female voice when only male voices were heard. American philosopher Cornel West describes her.
What did Ida B. Wells do? She looked American terrorism in the face. She looked lynching in the face. She was run out of Tennessee, a bounty on her head, and then went to England. She was willing to speak truths at the cost of life. And you see, Du Bois at the time, Booker T. Washington at the time, they did not want to speak as candidly and ended up not speaking as courageously as Ida B. Wells Barnett. That's why I conclude she is the most courageous in the sense of looking that terror in the face and being willing to be crushed by it. Ida B. Wells deserved to be talked about in the same breath as Martin, Malcolm, Frederick Douglass.
Ida B. Wells laid the foundation for the modern civil rights movement by answering the call for a radical change, leading a crusade that began 71 years before what most consider to be the beginning of the civil rights movement, leaving irrefutable legacy through her words and actions.
Gloria, what an outstanding job. Congratulations once again. Talk to me about the software that you use to edit your product.
I used Adobe Premiere Pro. It's from Adobe, so you're familiar with Photoshop and all that, but it's actually a video making software. I chose it because in 6th grade I was using Windows Movie Maker, and my brother was like, "You're not allowed to do that, Gloria. Here's Adobe Premiere Pro, figure it out." Okay, so I figured it out, and that's how I chose it.
Very good. Is this something, I mean, I know that your brother stayed with it, and now he's a video major, if you will. What are your plans for the future?
Well, I really like writing, that goes into the script of the project. Right. I really like writing, so I think I'm going to go into writing.
You're an 8th grader, have been to the National History Day 2 out of your last 3 years, and congratulations once again for that. Talk to me about your plans for high school. Are you going to stick with History Fair?
I think so. I mean, not just because it's required or anything, but I do enjoy it a lot.
Very good. In closing, anything else? Talk to me just about being in College Park, Maryland, around all of those other students who deserve to be there as well. But Texas is tough. We know we're tough because we took 6 of our own students there this year. So, but talk about the general mood that you're in as you get there, you see other products, you know what you're up against.
Well, when you go to College Park, Maryland, you see all 50 states as well as territories like Guam, like United States schools in other countries like Mexico, Guam, Guatemala. And you get to know other students, and also part of the tradition of History Day is each student gets a certain amount of pins so that you can trade with people from other places and you can get all like 50-something pins. That really is a part of the History Fair tradition. And getting to know other people, you know that you have to be good to be with these people because it's really tough competition. Pretty much everyone's a winner. You hear that a lot, but it really is true.
Just to make it there, I mean, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. What is the greatest memory, I guess, that you're going to take away from this?
I don't know, being with other people who enjoy doing this and who are really good at it is a really good experience. And also being able to see the capital of our nation was pretty awesome.
And I want to send out a kudos to Mary Duty, who helped these students, 6 of them, go to National History Day. And I know she was a pleasure to work with. She was always making you go the right direction and helping you with that bibliography and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she was a great support. Yes.
Very good. Gloria Conatser, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
We're so proud of you. Gloria Conatser, of course, going to National History Day competition for the 2nd time. This is Dale Caffrey reporting with a learner today and a leader tomorrow.